Hello and welcome to another episode of Video Game Logic. Today's episode was recorded on May the 19th, 2020. I'm your host, Gaming Psychologist, and with me, as always, actually partaking of his namesake,
Caffeine Rage.
On today's show, we will, of course, be discussing games that we have played within the last week. Doom Eternal's new anti-cheat breaks game for some and raises concerns. Anthem is being worked on by a 30-person, quote, incubation team, end quote. Kerbal Space Program is getting free ESA update. Valve shares plans for its imminent Artifact reboot beta. And we will have a Steam Discovery queue should time allow. Timestamps will be in the show notes following their respective topics. Hello, Rage.
Hello, how you doing?
I'm sleepy and weird.
And dopey.
And dopey.
But not at all bashful. And I know I've made that joke before, but what the hell at this point?
Yeah.
I mean, we're coming up on 200 episodes, so.
That's right. We've been doing this for a long time.
And we're not at all sorry.
Nope. I mean, I'm sorry, but not for that. I'm sorry for other stuff in my life. I do have regrets. I am human, after all.
Well, that could be a fun Franken episode.
What are your regrets? I mean, I will share them with you, not tonight.
More like, what are you actually ashamed of? Because,
not much. Not much. What did I used to be ashamed of before I found anti-Jesus?
What, supply side Jesus?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that could be a topic to record for a Franken episode sometime. But we have spent, I was late, slightly late, not super late, but slightly late. And then we spent like 40 minutes, like in sleepy, weird limbo.
Yeah.
Talking about.
Yeah, some with Craig, some without.
Yep. Talking about, Jesus the Masochist and other things that will come to a Franken episode near you in the future. It'll be a good time. But.
Yeah, sure.
How have you been, Rage?
Been alright. Been trying to get through some of our game club and still trying to play other games to have some content. So shall we move on to that?
Sure. Do you want to go first or do you want me to go first?
Yeah, well, I got two. Well, I'll do one, then you could do your few sentences, then I'll do the other one, alright?
Okay.
So my two games actually share a theme. Good ideas that just are kind of meh. And no, it's not Meh Warrior again, or Meh Warrior 5 Monotony. The first one is from Ninja Theory. It's Bleeding Edge. Their answer to the question that nobody asked, hey, why don't you make an Overwatch clone? So this is the hero shooter, or arena shooter, or whatever you want to call this genre, because I've heard it called several things now. Third-person hero shooter where it's a bunch of weirdos bashing against each other. And it's like, well, how is that, how's there, kind of, not developed well enough? Well, it seems like they spent, like, all their creativity on, like, 4 or 5 characters. And then kind of phoned it in for the rest, and then phoned it in for the game modes and the arenas. So, like I said, this is by Ninja Theory. So, a game company that actually has some prestige behind them. Not AAA per se, but good enough, right? And the storyline, because of course there has to be some sort of lore building, is that this is set in the future, and hackers stole the technology to be able to build cybernetic augmentations, and basically released it out onto the internet. So these very tightly controlled, very basically trying to prevent superhumans from becoming a thing. Well, the genie got let out of the bottle, and people went nuts with it. So you have, for example, a robotic snake who is the transferred mind of a elite hacker, who then puppets his mummified corpse around with the snake. All right?
Okay.
As one character. You have a obese lady with bubblegum pink hair that suffered, a biker that suffered an accident that basically left her paralyzed, so she replaced her legs with shock absorbers and rides a mono wheel around, or a unicycle around, but can also go down to like a biker mode, which I'll get into a little bit. You have your generic, techie girl. You have Bird Woman. You have Grandmother with a hot air balloon on her back and Wolverine claws. You have Giant Black Guy. Like I said, it feels like they spent a lot of their creativity on a few characters. And then it's just like, yeah, that's as much as we got. So, the game feels... now I'm blanking on that one hero shooter that we played a while back. It was the free-to-play one. Third person with horses that you could ride around on. You know what I'm talking about, but it's so forgettable, huh?
Yeah. Third person with horses that you could ride on.
Yeah, it was the hero shooter with the free to play on Steam.
Shit.
You know what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about, but I can't remember it for the life of me. Because it's a generic, bland hero shooter, bad Overwatch copy.
Yeah, well, this is pretty much the same as that. Only with less content.
Paladins.
See, I was going down Chivalry for some reason, but it's the same idea. Paladins. This feels a lot like Paladins, only you removed even more content. So, every single one of the characters have some sort of travel ability that honestly feels way too slow. The biker lady or generic hacker Asian guy has a travel mode on their actual character, be able to just go faster. Then everybody else has hoverboards. So you see why I went to Paladins immediately, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody else, has hoverboards, at least I saw. There may have been a couple others that I missed that had some sort of built-in travel mode. Maybe the old lady also has some sort of thing with her hot air balloon. But it feels sluggish. But at the same time, all the arenas feel like they're... trying to think of a good way to put this, because it feels like there's not enough clutter, all right, to make the arenas interesting. Now, I should preface this with saying that last technically hero shooter I played for an extended amount of time, and even though back then it wasn't called that, was Team Fortress 2. But something that Team Fortress 2 always had was some sort of flavor to the arenas, some sort of clutter or set dressing that made things feel a little bit more cohesive. It didn't feel like, oh, this could be any map anywhere. It's just a slightly different configuration. Well, that's what it felt like on the few matches I played in Bleeding Edge, was that it felt like, well, this doesn't feel like a different map. This just feels like they moved a room, or moved one or two rooms around, and that was it. That's not to say that the map design is terrible. It's just kind of bland. And that's how everything kind of felt. It just felt really uninspired. Some of the heroes or playable characters are more melee focused, but they felt like they were at a severe disadvantage because there was so many ranged fighters. And it may have just been that the player base is just so small. I tried playing this on a Friday evening, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So pretty much usual peak times, alright? I played 2, maybe 3 matches. Matchmaking took me over 5 minutes to get through. Alright? Then it's hurry up and wait on character select, another minute. Then it's hurry up wait again for the match to actually get going. So I'm looking at 7-8 minutes before even starting the match, and as far as I can tell, there's only 2 game modes. There's essentially a control point, and then there's a modified version of Capture the Flag, where or it's not really even Capture the Flag, it's a resource collection mission, but they both play essentially the same, where the control points essentially toggle on and off, and the only difference between them is if you're having to gather resources in between them. So control points, every minute they toggle on for a minute and then they turn off. but they're still accumulating points. So you have, let's say 500. I can't recall if that's the actual number. And it's 4v4, or at least the matches I got in. It may be 5v5, and I just never got full matches. And you capture the points, but whenever the points are no longer capturable, they are still accumulating points, which can lead to a real snowball effect, which happened in all my matches, where my team split up, grabbed 2 control points pretty quickly because the capture rate is just absurdly high, highest I've ever seen in one of these games, and then just sat and defended those 2 points and won. I never got to play the resource gathering one. I'm not sure if that was just luck of the draw or if that's the less popular of the two. But for that one, they at least could go over in the tutorial where you're just running around gathering up these floating blocks, and you have to drop them off at a central point. The central point turns on and off, and if you get damaged while you're dropping off, it interrupts your essentially banking the points. And of course, if you die with them, you drop them and the other team can pick them up. Pretty bog standard. And that's all the game modes. Maps, there was only a handful. And I went and looked at a map list, and there was 3 or 4 for each game mode. I mean, it feels like this should be a beta instead of an actual full release. And I'm just double checking it's a $30 game, and it just feels like it's not finished. Or not even in a release state, I should say. I mean, how even the one map or the one character I mentioned to you, the dolphin, that was post-release. I didn't even realize that. Now, they are talking about new skins and a new map coming out. But just take a look at the map on Steam. Look how sanitized that is. How kind of meh. Just feels boring.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's very rare that you find what is just a clone that's good or interesting enough on its own.
It just feels like it's not bringing anything really interesting to the table outside of its background lore. But then it doesn't really do anything with it outside the fact. There's an undead rocker dude that will play sick riffs and do a power slide, a kneel, and leave flames behind him. All right, great, but that's all the character that they have for him. That's it. You can see the programmer guy that's transferred his mind to a robotic snake. I believe that's the undead rocker that's breathing fire. It's just, I went into this expecting, with low expectations, and it is better than I thought it would be. So I should say that much. It is better than I thought it would be. Well, I think it might have just been colored by the fact that there's really doesn't seem to be a player base, even with Game Pass. I played this on Game Pass, by the way. I didn't mention that before. There's just, it's better than what I thought it would be, but because there's just no players available, even with Game Pass going, and it trying to force you to use a controller to try to make crossplay a lot more viable, which at least the Game Pass version does do crossplay, but even though it's crossplay on Game Pass, I'm still spending over 5 minutes of matchmaking. That's a bad sign, isn't it?
Yeah.
I really think this one's dead on arrival unless they're able to pull something out of their hat, or whatever, cybernetic thing is in the future that passes for a hat, maybe a hot air balloon or something. It's just, go play Paladins. It's actually more defined, unless you must play a dolphin in a walking robot, right?
I mean, that's pretty neat, but not neat enough for $30.
Okay. Here's kind of the pinnacle of it, all right? All these games have some sort of customization setting or a system in them, right?
Mm-hmm.
The customizations in Bleeding Edge is literally all recolors. All of them. Short of the emotes, which is just a couple animations. There's 3 animations you could unlock, and there's 3 cosmetics that you can unlock for each character, which there's no daily quest or anything. It's literally just you play a match, you get you grind out some currency, and you're able to buy either mods, which I'll get to in a moment. I forgot about them until just now, or cosmetics, which are all literally just 3 colors. They changed the color of the biker chick's costume from like dark or black with a teal to a black with a blue or black with a pink or something like that. Very, very minor. It's just kind of, once again, meh. But I completely forgot about the mod system. The mod system is where the game tries to do something a little bit deeper, but it's just so grindy that I never got to play with it because they only hand you a little bit of currency for a win. And to get some mods, I'm looking at like 10 to 20 wins. And it's all pretty, just boring stuff. Once again, it's just percentage increases or decreases. That's all, at least. Increasing damage, decreasing cooldowns, increasing range, that sort of thing. So it feels like there's going to be a very much a right way to mod out a character and no real customization or player choice in it. Now, I could be wrong on that one because I didn't dive into it enough because I was taking forever to get a match, let alone get enough wins to be able to start unlocking mods. And it's all through this grindy play long enough to get enough points to be able to unlock something. They had some sort of quest system where, okay, play with this character so many times and you'll unlock a mod form, maybe, or some sort of alternate progression system, but no, just a treadmill. And there's better games that I could do that one.
Right.
And I ended up talking on that one a lot longer than I thought I would.
You did, but that's okay.
Any questions on that one?
Nah, I don't think so. It seems really boring. And you talked to me about it the other day, too. Briefly while we were, I think it was Sunday night, you mentioned it to me. Yeah,
in between, just before playing some cards together. Mm-hmm. Yeah, when we finish that game, we're going to have to talk about it again, aren't we?
Yeah, I think we definitely will.
Yeah.
But is it my turn?
Yeah, I would say if you're hard... the main reason why I started playing it in the first place was that was a Microsoft Rewards quest on Game Pass. So I downloaded and played through it a little bit to try it out. And honestly, I think the marketing on it, they really dropped the ball on that. Because they make it look like it's a fighting game instead of a hero shooter unless you start diving into the stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I haven't looked at the marketing for it, so I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's just, yeah, I mean, I'm just watching the trailers, and unless you look at a couple very small clips, looks like a fighting game. So yeah, it's just like dropping the ball over and over and over again. Yeah, you would think that they work for Bethesda or something.
You would think.
But we'll get to that later. All right, you're up.
Indeed. So I didn't play anything new this week. I had to go pick up one of my sisters-in-law, who's living with us for the summer. We had to go to Pennsylvania to get her. So I was out of pocket for a couple of days, and
I'm surprised you didn't show up here. Actually,
it was like a quick turnaround trip. I mean, we drove for like 20. We were up for 20, somewhere between like 24 and 30 hours straight. It was a long trip. Driving out, getting the stuff, driving back. Honestly, I didn't even think about it. Like, it's on a mission.
From God.
But we left like Thursday after I got done working, and got back Friday night sometime. And I played a little bit of some stuff, but I like crashed and then did work over the weekend otherwise, like on the house and stuff. So anyways, I did a lot of stuff and didn't really get any time to play any new games. The only two things I played were a little bit of BattleTech, which has become my current sort of working game because it's, turn-based. I can leave it for a while if I need to, and it's fine. And then I played more Yakuza, which is the Game Club game, so obviously not going to talk about that right now. But I talked about Rogue Tech last week, one of the biggest BattleTech, like, full conversion mods or whatever. I couldn't get it working in a way that I felt was acceptable. Like, I never could get better than, like, a steady 25 FPS. And it just, even in, like, I might be able to handle that, but there was still so much like jittering and frame drops and weirdness when the engine would like want to die because it was doing stuff it wasn't intended to do. And if you've got like enough horsepower to run it, fine, then that's great. But my computer is not that strong. So I uninstalled Rogue Tech and just went back and started a regular stock playthrough. And the final update to the game, or at least what they've said is the final like official update to the game, added a bunch of stuff that they really didn't have to, but it was like nice quality of life stuff. Like they added a bunch of new mech variants to existing mechs in the game, and it's not just the stuff from the DLCs. It's quite a few of the base mechs have got variants to them as well. So different weapon loadouts or other potential interesting things that could be a part of them, like quirks or other things like that. So that's neat. They added a bunch of new weapons, or not new weapons, but there were weapons in the game that had didn't have plus variants that had, you know, special stat boosts. And so they added variants for those weapons. So now you can get like machine guns were the ones that had that. Machine guns and flamers definitely never had any plus variants in the past. And there might have been some other stuff that didn't. That I was like drawing a blank on that was added in the mods that wasn't in the base game. But now the like machine guns have plus and plus variants, which can do more damage. Or the machine guns are fun. One of the plus variants makes them weigh 0, because a machine gun normally only weighs a half a ton, but you can get variants of them that weigh 0, so that's fun. I've got a few of those in my current playthrough. And then they added half-ton ammo, which is a thing that exists in lore. You know, half a ton, half the amount of ammo in it, but sometimes you've only got like a half a ton left on your armor build, or you're trying to create some other balance thing, or maybe you're using like a one single missile launcher, long or short range, and a ton of ammo is probably going to go to waste because you won't use it that much during a mission, but it's a little extra firepower, can round out kind of the weapon profile for your mech. So now you can just use a half a ton of ammo. That's nice. And they've added a bunch of other quality of life stuff in terms of like customization options to the difficulty of the game. At some point in the past, they added a bunch of difficulty options in the sense of like you could scale it up or down or any combination of based on your playstyle. So for example, you could like by default it takes 3 mech parts to build a mech from salvage. You could turn that from all the way up to 8, so 3, 4, 5, etc. You could change the amount of money that you would get for contracts, the base multiplier, to make it higher so you got more money or less money. Some of that stuff existed, but they've added more of those options so that you can dial in that difficulty even more. And that's probably my favorite thing that they've added. Because one of the things that I always did was I would go in and I would still mod the game file to change how much money you got for selling your mechs and how much money you got for contracts, tweak the scalars. And so being able to do that by default is really nice. It's not crazy, but it's just enough of a boost that makes it feel like it makes sense. It's like, okay, I'm dropping, 200 tons of super awesome crazy technology that everyone's like, oh my god, you have mechs, that's amazing, you're so cool, but you're only giving me like $100,000 and a couple pieces of salvage.
Please, like, it's 100,000 space bucks.
Right, my apologies. And then they've added a lot of additional sort of random encounters to spice things up a little bit, and they've kind of done that with every update, but they've added even more. So that's cool, because I'm still seeing stuff that I hadn't seen in my previous, like, 500 or 600 hours of gameplay. And there's certainly the possibility that I could have missed stuff from before, but I'm consistently seeing new things right now, or different variants of things that I'd seen before. So that's very cool. And then they've added additional voice lines, and for your pilots, like whenever they'd shoot somebody, there's some new voice lines, or whenever you drop on a planet, you might get a unique voice line. And, if you've got the DLC, then some of this stuff you get a little bit more of, because obviously there's mech variants for the DLC mechs as well as the base game. But even if you don't have that stuff, there's still things in there for everybody. So it's just really nice, like quality of life stuff. If you've never played before, then you wouldn't really notice any of that. But I mean, I've had high praise for BattleTech since day one, and they've continually improved it. And, kind of with its final send-off, it seems like they have given it some further sort of final improvements. It's nice.
Well, I guess that means it's back onto me. I do want to go back to play BattleTech again, but I think I'm going to wait till after the summer sale and grab probably all the DLC at once.
Yeah, I think it's the Mercenary Pack that's everything.
Well, I'm looking at Mercenary Pack versus like the Season Pass pack because the one has the digital deluxe content, which I don't care that much about.
The soundtrack is really good. The BattleTech soundtrack is one of the only game soundtracks I've ever like sat and listened to. And not all of it is great. Like the battle music and stuff gets kind of repetitive, but like, man, that intro song, just chef kiss. And there's some other really good music in there too. The front or the title music, it's really good. The guy who wrote that soundtrack won a bunch of awards a couple of years ago because of the BattleTech soundtrack.
Yeah, but I have Prime Music.
That's true. I mean, you can listen to it on there, but you can also listen to it just on YouTube. But
yeah, but see, if I'm listening to it on Prime Music, they at least get royalties or something, right? And I just checked that it actually is on here.
Okay. Yeah, I have everything except the digital deluxe content on it. But yeah, I mean, I think the season pass still gives you everything. That probably is the cheapest way to go.
The season pass doesn't give the digital deluxe, but it also has a 17% off.
Right.
Even before any of the sales. So when that goes on sale, probably knocks it down to probably about 20 some or thereabouts. Yeah. So yeah, that'll probably be what my big purchase for the summer sale. That or any random game that we'll have to add to the game club list and then never play, right?
Probably the only other mod I'm going to try for a while is one that adds the career or the campaign stuff into a career mode as flashpoints.
Ooh.
I think I'm going to do that and actually go through it with my stuff the whole way instead of when the game wants you to, because a lot of stuff is gated in the campaign mode. I mean, kind of naturally there's a progression to the story. I get it, but nah, fuck that. I'm going to go in guns blazing. From mission 1, like here's my 4 atlases.
4 atlases with Mad Cats on their shoulders, right?
Yeah, come on, Kamea, let's go.
They're talking about how tough this fight is going to be.
Yeah.
And then the second dropship comes in with another 4 atlases, gold-plated.
That's my favorite thing, I think, about particularly the heavy metal update. I mean, you don't get to command 2 lances, but they added so many more mission types where you have allies fighting beside you that it helps the sort of scale of combat feel better on higher level and city missions. Good stuff.
Okay.
Good stuff. I should stop talking.
I was going to ask you one last BattleTech question.
Okay.
Out of the 3 DLCs, since you have them, which one do you say would be the best and which one's the worst?
That's a good question. If I actually don't know if you have to have the Flashpoint expansion to get the flashpoints that exist in Urban Warfare and Heavy Metal. So if you do, then Flashpoint, which is the first one, is the best. If you don't, Heavy Metal is the best. Because it adds the most additional content to the mechs and customization. And actually, it adds an entire new storyline to play through. So Heavy Metal, if you don't have to have Flashpoint, Heavy Metal is the best.
Yeah, it looks like have to have Flashpoint. Looks like you don't have to, from the looks of it.
Okay,
I may be mistaken on that.
Heavy Metal is the best. And Urban Warfare is the worst. But that's like an A+ versus like an A- or maybe a B+. Like Urban Warfare, the biggest problem with it is that urban maps just kill performance. Just kill it. I assume just because there's so much shit that they've drawn on. Like, I mean, they do feel like huge cities. But it just tanks in-game performance. And then they did add in the options menu, this is new, they added a I forget what it's called, but like a performance meet thing that you can tick on for city maps, and it simplifies the maps a lot, and it still runs like shit. So I just left it on. Like, if it's gonna run like crap in cities, it might as well look great.
Yeah. Besides, it's turn-based. But as long as it's not screwing up your targeting, it's fine.
No, it's not doing that. But watching the action is like more like watching a slideshow. But I mean, I'm to the point where I just have like the fast battle mode turned on all the time. So there's not really much watching, like walking around and shooting.
Or at least with that attitude.
It still happens, but it goes really, really fast. So, all right, your turn.
Okay. It's time to stop padding and go on to my second themed game of games that are a good idea, but there just doesn't feel like there's enough. So, Occidental Heroes. This is a mobile game that I've been toying around with for actually a couple weeks now, just on and off. And it's an open world roguelite that feels like it just isn't going anywhere, at least for the time being. This may just be one of those cases where I have not hit the particular story trigger to actually draw me in. So this is, I was saying counting, a hex grid tactics combat game where you are running a troop of essentially mercenaries in a fantasy world, going around doing contracts. And there is something here. There is some interesting combat, but at the same time, it is also very frustrating. So, as it's roguelite, there is permadeath. You lose a character, they are dead. Dead is dead. But also, wounded characters lose resolve. And all characters have a certain amount of resolve points. Once resolve points hit 0, at least according to the wiki, because I haven't actually had it happen yet, and I was poking around the wiki to figure out, okay, when does this game actually start to pick up? Because it's kind of right now. They leave the company and take a chunk of money with them. The guild or the mercenary group you're part of, all loot is distributed between the members of the group. And depending on how you set it up, you have a few essentially modifiers to the campaign mode, where you could have 4 members or 3 members. You can make it so that your characters are level up slower, but they have more resolve, that sort of thing. So there is some options there, but the thing is that losing a character because they took one too many hits, especially your tank characters, right? That just puts me off from the very get-go. And on top of that, just the fact that I haven't hit the story trigger yet to actually find this amazing story that the reviews are talking about, or this deep lore. It's just said to be back and forth between a couple towns. Occasionally you tell me to go hunt a bear and bring back a bear ass.
Literally? Or
well, not literally, but they say you collected some trophies to show that you killed the bear. So, hey, 2 butt cheeks, right?
There you go.
It's just, this may be just a simple case of me missing the actual amazing depth, but it's also rated 4 stars with 11,715 reviews, which sounds pretty good. But you have to remember, this is the Google Play Store, so anything below 5 stars, pure cancer. Right?
Right. 100%.
It is free to play, so I would say that if you're interested in this particular genre, it's worth checking out. But there's just a lot of reading long passages of text, and there's not a lot of variation in them. So pretty quickly, it's this type of mission. It's just, I gotta go this direction. It's this type of mission. I have to go this direction. Oh crap, it's an escort mission. Do I turn this down and try to get to the next town with my supplies? Or after a while, after you build enough money, just skip town, get enough supplies to be able to traverse the world map, which every time you go past a hex, you're burning an amount of supplies, your food and drink. But you could eventually buy a horse or some sort of pack mule to increase the amount of supplies you're able to carry. And also that's dependent on the amount of party members you have. So if you lose a party member, well, you may end up losing supplies as well because your party members can't carry enough now, which is irritating. It's good for a toy around game, if you don't want to sit and think about it. but it's also a tactics game. And a tactics game, by its very definition, is not a very casual game because you have to sit there and think about your move. You have to think about the gameplay. So it's kind of the antithesis of itself, you know?
Yeah.
So that's why it just feels weird. And it might, like I said, just be I haven't gotten to the good part yet. Because it seems like the game just wants me to go back and forth between these couple towns and build up my reputation. And the thing is that if you lose a character, your renown is tied to those characters. So you have to hire another one and you're on the grind again. So eventually, maybe you'll be able to get to a point where you're able to get enough renown to finally buy that bridge pass. But it just, up to that point, it's just so boring. So, if you're really looking for something, go for it. But there has to be better tactics games on Android. So,
yeah, probably. I don't play enough Android games to find out, though.
Yeah, well, I ended up finding this just on random on the Play Store, and it was interesting enough for an evening or two. But it's just it's something I should look for is best tactics games. Fire Emblem. There you go. Right.
Oh yeah, I forgot. There's a Fire Emblem mobile game. Also, I think
Final
Fantasy Tactics is on.
Or is that the Fire Emblem game I played? It's like this microscopic little field.
But you mean Fire Emblem? What, Heroes? Whatever. Fire Emblem. Yeah, looks like it's just Fire Emblem Heroes.
Yeah, which is disappointing. But there is a full-on tactics Final Fantasy Tactics games, which is a different one than we played, I think.
Yeah, there's been a few.
No, this is an updated version. So there's proper cutscenes and everything instead of saying their walls of text. So maybe we should have played that, right? But I wasn't wanting to spend $12 on a mobile game. I know. Mobile games have severely devalued themselves because there's so many that's free or you pay with ads, right?
Yeah, but I'll still buy a mobile game. I bought one that I haven't played yet. I've been kind of holding on to it for a good time to play it. But I bought like a $5 puzzle game on mobile that looked really good.
Yeah, I'm just going.
And I saw some good reviews and stuff for. So I didn't just buy it on a whim, but
yeah. I think that's the other thing that really puts me off is that it's so hard to find proper reviews for mobile games.
Yeah.
I'm just scrolling through a couple of lists now. Like, here's one, Darkest Dungeon, which that works, right?
Yeah. Yep.
But
Okie dokie.
Yeah. Well, like I said, both my games, decent ideas, but feels like they're lacking something. For one, player base; the other one, actual content. At least as far as I got to play. So, moving on.
Indeed, moving on. Our first news story of the night. Doom Eternal's new anti-cheat breaks the game for some and raises concerns.
Oh, Bethesda, right?
Yep, they added, the short version is they added Denuvo anti-cheat to Doom Eternal after launch without, announcing it that they were... they announced when they did it, but they didn't announce that they were going to do it or that it was planned. They just did it and then said, oh, hey, we updated the game. It's got Denuvo anti-cheat now.
Enjoy.
Yep.
And people are going rather nuts about this. For some people, very good reasons. But people are also blowing other parts of this story out of the water. So let's break it down. For one, a lot of... people are going on about this being kernel level. This will hack your computer, anti-cheat stuff. Well, no, because anti-cheat stuff usually goes to that level. It usually is that invasive. The problem with that is that it's also carrying the Denuvo tag, and that also garners a lot of hate. So, yeah, right?
Yeah.
So saying kernel level anti-cheat, at least according to a couple of sources I've read, that's not exactly new. What's new is that, it runs both in single and multiplayer. That sucks. especially for people that are having frame rate issues or just the game not running, because if you're running Linux, you're screwed because it doesn't work in Linux. And it's a required program to run it, the game, even in single player. So, yeah, enjoy, right?
I did not know that. I didn't know that it didn't run in Linux. I missed that on the stuff that I'd seen.
The game itself, it's not designed for Linux, as far as I know. But up until this patch, you were able to run it in a wrapper to be able to essentially emulate Windows to be able to play it in Linux. But not anymore.
Gotcha. Well, that fucking sucks. I mean, I have received the briefest of education, mostly right before we started recording, from a video you showed me about how
because
and why anti-cheat is at the kernel level instead of at a higher level.
Yeah.
But I mean, essentially, if it runs at an application level, if I'm understanding this correctly,
it's worthless.
Then it's worthless, because anyone who's actually really trying to hack, cheat, etc., can just go down below it and then subvert it.
Yeah, which I trust this source because this is Sid Alpha, and he is a programmer as his day job. He works in the tech field, so if there's anybody that I trust with this, it is Sid Alpha.
And also he does his research, his homework. Yeah. He's very reputable.
I mean, how even Jim Sterling didn't go off on this, right?
Yeah.
It's more the fact that they did it on the first major patch after the fact, That is the scummy move. That is the bullshit move. Because if you're one of the unlucky people that are having issues with it, well, you just got your game hobbled with no warning. And it would suck if you're playing it up to this point, getting close to the end of the campaign, which, from what I've heard, Doom Eternal is actually a fairly lengthy game. Let me just double check that, and it would help if I didn't typo that. Yeah, roughly 15 to 20 hours. That's not short for a shooter.
No, not for a first-person shooter.
That's fucking long for a first-person shooter.
Yeah, most average shooter campaigns, I would say, are probably in the 8-ish hour point. 8 to 10 hours.
Yeah, thereabouts.
Yeah. So, but I mean, my biggest problem is that they just slid it in there without telling anybody.
Mm-hmm.
If you're gonna put it in there up front, fine. At least people know, and people.
I mean, that's the thing, is that Bethesda wasn't even able to put the DRM in the game properly because they released a version of Doom Eternal without the DRM by accident. Remember?
Yeah, I do.
So I do understand that there's a backlash, not trusting Bethesda putting invasive anti-cheat, even though that is, kind of redundant, into a game. But at the same time, right? It's the fact that they did it without, saying, oh yeah, by the way, next patch in a couple of weeks, we're going to put a Denuvo anti-cheat, or not even named it anti-cheat, but saying we're going to put in an anti-cheat software, right? Or how about this? How about make it so that the multiplayer mode gets the anti-cheat, and whenever you load up a single player game, it doesn't run. It's a split system. I'm not sure if Doom Eternal is set up like that, but I do know that some games that have very strong anti-cheat software, single player is completely segregated. But once again, that requires a publisher that actually gives a shit about that sort of thing. And this is Bethesda after all. And yes, I realize id Software is the developers, but it's not fun to shit on them as much.
Yeah. The only game I've ever seen that does that, and I'm sure there's others that do, but the only game I've ever seen do that is one of the Call of Duties, Black Ops. It's got a separate single player and multiplayer that you launch. And I mean, if you swap, it closes out the one and opens the other.
Yeah, which... I saw something pop up, which is going to be on the next week's show.
Okay.
I just saw Yongay put out a video. Oh boy, right? Just what the hell, right?
Yeah.
I think it's just more the fact that we're the industry treats players as really disposable, or there's no consumer protection whatsoever. Or I shouldn't say whatsoever. Whenever it comes to changing the game after the fact, there's no protection whatsoever. A game could be completely changed, and you're just told, oh, suck it up. A game could be broken, and you're told, no big deal. And there really should be some sort of protection about, well, you just patched the game and I can't play it anymore. Not even this whole, kickback of, well, I don't not like Denuvo, so this game is literally unplayable to me because I don't like it. But the fact that, well, I was playing on Linux and it was working up until this point until you put the anti-cheat, which broke my way I was playing it. Or my computer is having an adverse reaction to it. And I've seen some people posting FPS graphs of severe hitching because of the anti-cheat doing something in the background whenever they're playing the single-player campaign. Well, they're told, well, tough. And it's hard to really want to support AAA developers in the process because you're just running you're spinning the roulette wheel. Are you going to get screwed over before you play your game, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's why you and I so often recommend, like, don't just buy brand new games. Wait a while and see what happens.
Yeah, patient gamer, right?
Mm-hmm. And a lot of times you don't even have to wait that long. Like, it's not like, wait 5 years, but a few months is usually enough in most of these cases to see whether or not the game is good or going to get fucked over, or if it launches poorly to see if they're going to fix it.
Yeah, or if the game comes back and with weird monetization, right?
Yeah.
Teasing next week.
Is there another one?
No, there was a response to that one.
Okay.
And Young Ye just put out a video 2 hours ago and I didn't see it. Because damn YouTube subscription model.
Yep. Shitty broken YouTube subscription model.
Well, subscription feed, I guess I should say.
Yeah, subscription algorithm. But speaking of patient gaming and broken games and bullshit, let's go on to our next news topic. Anthem is being worked on by a 30-person, quote, incubation team.
So, a quick question, all right?
Mm-hmm.
What year is it? Because, quarantine has made things kind of drawn out and, and I kind of lose track of time. Anthem released a while back, right?
Yep, Anthem released, January or February last year?
Let's see, it released February 22nd, 2019. Okay, so it was last year. It's been a year and 3-4 months. They're just now working on this? What the fuck?
Yep. They're going back to the drawing board.
Okay, I realize this is a completely separate division of BioWare. All right, this is a different studio, and this is also a very, very small team for AAA development. What the ever living fuck? This is not just missing the boat. This is missing This is like buying a ticket to a sailing ship. You've missed the entire age of sail.
They missed the ocean. Their boat's on the beach. It's interesting why they're doing this. I think that this is primarily to just save face. I can't say for sure. I don't think Anthem is making money for them anymore. They might be able to spin it of like, oh, people subscribe to the whatever that we've got and we'll play Anthem. And honestly, I think that's the only way to play Anthem is subscribe. If you want to, subscribe to their, whatever it is, EA Origin Access, whatever, for a month for like $10.
Before it goes into the Disney Vault.
Or actually, I think the basic one is like $5. It's $5 or $10. You subscribe, you play through the whole game, you play maybe one other, because it's pretty short. You play maybe one other game that you want to play but don't want to buy, and then you end your subscription and, good to go. I'm sure there's a few people out there who are spending money on the cosmetics and the premium currency and all that bullshit, but I just can't imagine that they're making money on it. But I think, and they mentioned this somewhere in the article, I think towards the bottom, but I think they're they're thinking that they need to save face on this. Like, oh no, BioWare's actually really loved by people and they've fucked up a lot of stuff and
not anymore.
And if we let this just go down the drain, then what's that's going to say about us, which is a really weird move for them to pull at this point. But maybe that means that there's been enough pressure on EA recently that they feel like they've got to score some brownie points somewhere. Because between Anthem and then Battlefront 1 and 2 and
Battlefront 2 is also
Mass Effect.
Well, Battlefront 2 is pretty much into development. And did you see the Jim Sterling video about that one? Oof.
No, that was this week, so I haven't seen it yet.
Basically, there's a petition to get more paid DLC, and Jim Sterling went off.
I could imagine.
Not just more development, but more paid development, and he went a little cray. All right.
Yeah.
But here's the thing for Anthem. All right, let's get it back on Anthem. Then we could shit on EA a little bit more in general. Is that okay? It's been over a year. They also put an update out in February, which said essentially the same thing, saying that it's going to be a while. Honestly, I'll be surprised if we see a 2.0 and they're just dabbling in the background. I'll like to be surprised on that because, is this the new BioWare magic? Put a bunch of interns on the project for perpetual crunch now?
Probably.
It's just... Anthem never really, I think, had a shot. They were focused so much on trying to get that one E3 trailer to be the full game that they lost sight on what actually makes a good looter shooter. To the point that there's reports that they weren't even allowed to try other looter shooters to lift ideas or get a feel for how the game actually plays. Let's just put it this way. I searched Anthem release date just to get the date. People also asked, is Anthem fixed yet? Is Anthem still alive? Is Anthem getting better? Is Anthem going to be free? Is BioWare still working on Anthem? Is Anthem a dead game? I think, yeah, right.
Yeah, and I totally get that. Also, I wonder if part of this is this is EA's, This is the problem with me being tired. The games that go on forever.
Games as a service?
Yeah, this is EA's games as a service game. And so they can't throw in the towel on it and admit that it was a failure.
Yeah, but they're also
whatever reason
starting to fall for the sunk cost fallacy because, these developers, even if there's just 30 of them, is not cheap.
No. 30 people, I don't know what a dev's salary is. We could probably look and get an average. Actually, let's do that. Game developer.
I was already doing that.
Okay.
Glassdoor game programmer saying 42 to 71K per year in North Carolina.
Okay.
Salary.com, $20 to $30 per hour.
Well, they're not going to be paying those guys actual per hour rates.
Yeah. This one, Glassdoor says base average base pay about $51,000 a year.
All right, so I actually went with the lowest first number you said, 42,000. Mm-hmm. I just took an even 42,000, and if that's what all 30 of those devs is getting paid, that's $1,260,000 a year for that team, and
that's not even counting additional costs.
Right. That's just their salary.
Right now, the additional costs are going to be lower because everybody's working from home, but also software licensing that costs something, especially if there's also some graphics artists in there because that starts to really rack up the pricing. Just software licensing in general though is going to add to that. Office fees, that sort of thing. It's just, right? It snowballs quickly.
I 100% think that this is just them trying to save face to keep their games as service game from quote unquote failing, even though it's basically a failure. But it's not a failure until they throw in the towel.
I was going to say, or keep those investors happy. Because think about it, publicly traded company, right?
Right.
And there's that cynical side of me, which let's face it, EA, they care more about investors than they do players. Are more focused on keeping the investors happy and saying that, oh yeah, Anthem, it had a rocky start, but we're actively working on it in the background. We're going to make it better. And that might be worth $1 million a year. Keep that stock a little bit higher, right?
That's true. Good point.
And then, just quietly, break up the team later.
When they have something else.
Yeah.
That would block or eat up any negative that came from them quietly announcing that Anthem is done.
Yeah, or, the next Star Wars game when they eventually get around to another one, right?
Yeah.
Because, well, let's go ahead and ship back on EA, where the snarky response to that, the petition was one of the CEOs saying, well, funny, the other petition had a lot more signees on it. And you know exactly what one I'm talking about, right?
Say that again?
Talking about how that other petition 2.5 years ago had a lot more signatures on it.
Oh, the one about...
The loot boxes, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess he doesn't feel a sense of pride and accomplishment, huh?
Hey-o.
Yes, I went there.
Nice. Yeah, so...
Yeah, I realize I'm being cynical, but it's me, right?
Yeah. Yes, indeed. We're cynical old bastards. But I mean, you're probably right. It's probably a combination of A and B. Saving face, and also because it keeps a little bit of buzz going and helps the stock prices be higher.
Yeah, somewhere they did a cost-benefit analysis and said, we can put 30 people on and it'll make sense. Now, they may be able to tweak something to make it a little bit more enjoyable, but I do not I really hope I'm wrong on this, because, there is some interesting stuff with Anthem. It's essentially Iron Man the shooter. There is a possibility that they could rework it enough, but you're also looking at the problem of how much can you rework before you actually have to start losing progression, right? Because you've changed too much. You either have to roll back people or just, there's only so much we could do, right?
Yeah. Yep. I don't know how much. I mean, I haven't played Anthem in over a year now. Because, I mean, I did exactly what I just said. I got their whatever Game Pass and played through and beat it, and then my month ran out.
Well, honestly,
I haven't touched it since.
Well, I watched that one E3 trailer, so it feels like I played it, because that seems about all the interesting stuff that they had to show, right?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, then I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the experience.
But but we're also two very different gamers, where I would be highly pissed off at some of the game mechanics based on what I read.
Very true. Yeah. Do you want to go talk about something that's hopefully not gonna piss you off?
Yes, sure. Let's bring back Kerbal for a segment. So
Yay!
So who gets to be Biff this time?
I'm always Biff.
Okay.
That's just how it goes. Kerbal Space Program is getting a free European Space Agency update.
And we should highlight this is Kerbal Space Program 1, not the sequel that's still in active development. So this is a free update to KSP, where they're adding comments and stuff from the ESA. So, yay, right?
Yay!
We get to murder Kerbals in new ways and crash them into a comet and get to... Hey, wait. We get to roleplay Armageddon.
Oh, boy. Honestly, I haven't played KSP in forever. We did it for a game club, 2 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
I think, and I don't think I've played it since then. Like, nothing against it, and I 100% am gonna get KSP 2 when it launches, unless it, turns out to be, a hot garbage.
Yeah, I'm gonna wait till after launch, of course, but...
Yeah, but, I put in my, 600, 700 hours, and, good. I'm good.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that I put in probably that much time as well, and it felt like I didn't even really touch all the content the game had. because I never really did much with the outer solar system. I modded the game all to hell, so I had my ComSat networks as well, and I only had coverage on the inner solar system to be able to send robotic probes, and also did life support. So sending prolonged main missions required a lot higher tech than would normally be required. So I intentionally slowed myself down, but at the same time gave myself more to do in the inner solar system, which I'm happy to say, okay, well, now I need to go do this. So more content's always welcome to see, especially the fact that they're also doing a sort of a player challenge as well. So there is going to be, let me just make sure I get this right. So the update will launch on PC in July, which will intended to commemorate the two studios' partnership with the European Space Agency, and it'll add 2 new missions based on real life historical ESA missions. Bipi Colombo, which will be the first mission. It will task players with reaching and landing on Moho, the Kerbal Space Program equivalent of Mercury, in honor of the real life mission of the same name. And the second mission, Rosetta, revolving around landing on a Jupiter family comet in real life. The Kerbal Space Program mission will reflect this. So comets as well, right?
Yeah.
But it's also cool to see, kind of analogs of real missions as well, to get a feel of just how crazy some of this stuff is whenever you really sit and think about it.
Yeah. I'm looking at the Breaking Ground expansion, which came out last year. Apparently it's on sale right now.
Oh, really?
I guess, actually, all of KSP is on sale right now, it looks like.
Yeah, I never did get the DLCs, actually.
I never did either. No reason other than just, mods already did all that stuff.
Yeah, but...
having it officially supported...
Yeah, but the Breaking Ground one with the robotic stuff and the surface mount science payloads would be a little bit more stable.
Yeah.
Plus, it gives a better starting point for mods to build up. That's the thing, right?
Yeah, that's true. But, the thing that I always focused on is apparently supposed to be, a huge thing in KSP2, because a lot of the mods that I went for were for creating, colonies and habitats on other worlds and creating launch platforms from them and that sort of thing. I never quite went as much into the robotics aspect. I liked to, especially in, the career mode, or whichever one it was that you had to have money. You set up a mining operation off-world, and then you could launch stuff back to Kerbin and make money and fund your space program that way. So I would set up, fuel refining operations on the Mun and...
yeah, well, one thing I would do, which I never got far enough to really be... Well, I set up for, but never got enough to be able to make use of, was I would like to redo space tourism, so that was less, as soon as you break the atmosphere, people's like, oh yeah, I want to go too, and make it more of a late game thing, but also build up the way to be able to manufacture stuff off-world eventually.
Yeah, well, that was what some of the mods that I was using did. You would build stuff off-world and launch and go from there. That's supposed to be apparently a huge part of KSP2, at least from the trailers and stuff that I've seen.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that trailers, it's tough to say, right?
Yeah. I hope that it is. Having all that officially supported would be nice.
Yeah, especially if they continue the mod support, which I realize different studios, but still.
Yeah. I remember the last 2 major projects that I worked on before Kerbalcast died was one, we created the shared space station with the game file that we shared around. Yeah. And I built the huge
basically
refining system for the station.
Said and try not to kill the save file.
Yeah, I put I think it was 250 parts in orbit, and
I should have told Kyle not to call it.
Yeah,
Because
That's true.
Or what I probably should have done was put it in a more eccentric orbit, so it would have been more challenging to get stupidly big parts too, because it was pretty much in a 100 by 100 perfectly zero orbit, wasn't it? Or something.
Yeah, I think so.
Or I made it really easy to get.
It was a fairly circular orbit, like right above the equator. And then the other thing I did was the space or the solar system tour or something like that, where I built like that huge colony ship that had all of the people from, all of us that ever contributed to the show was like characters on the ship. And that was like right before the podcast died. So that mission was never completed.
Yeah, then Biff went out the airlock, and then we never saw him again.
He biffed it. There was like a secret to that the whole time, and there was like a pod that had Taylor Swift in it, and she was gonna get ejected and dumped out onto.
No, you should have had it where she would have crashed into the sun.
What's the Venus equivalent?
Oh, damn!
Whatever that planet was, and not playing it in 2 years, I've forgotten a lot of the names and stuff, but the Venus equivalent was where her pod was going to get dumped, and it could land safely.
Eve.
Eve. Okay, yeah. The plan was to maroon her there, not kill her, because the pod had like a parachute and some rockets on it to stabilize it on the way down, and then she was just going to be there forever.
Nah, you should have put her on Lathe.
That ship had tons of problems. I kind of fucked up, but then I just had to go with it because I was already so deep. I was like, yeah, I got to do this. Like, I've been talking about it on the show for weeks, and I'm in this project. I think I recorded some of it too. But my craft was very unstable. It was a puller design. And it was just too long and heavy. And so once it started wobbling, it was all over. Because, my thought was like, well, if I pull on it, then, I won't have to worry about it being long. And that might work in real life, but Kerbal physics are...
You summoned the Kraken.
I did. And so it would just start oscillating horribly.
Yeah, probably.
And I didn't want to cheat. I could just cheat, but I didn't want to do that. I wanted to actually do it.
Yeah, well, the welding system that they put in since then feels almost cheaty, doesn't it? As a way to fix the Kraken. Basically, you'd be able to weld all the parts together.
Yeah.
At times it feels a little over the top. But probably my biggest project I ever did was I launched this absolutely massive crane to the moon and built a lunar colony out of just these pods that snap together. And when I say massive crane, I mean this thing was built around now a decommissioned space station parts pack, and it was built around the body of it was a fuel tank that. Well, let's put it this way. It had 8 wheels. 8 of the big wheels. And I actually had to go and cheat to put fuel in it because originally it was just fully electrically powered. So I launched the fuel tank that made the body empty because weight. Well, I didn't account that the Mund's gravity would be so light that it would just skate around instead of actually roll.
Yeah.
Because this was in the alpha. This was one of my first major projects. So probably 2-3, if I recall correctly. It was in the 20s range before they did their one beta patch.
Yeah. I started playing after the 2s. Yeah. Because I know that there was a 0.9. Was there something between 2.5 or maybe 2.9 and 9.0 or whatever?
Let's see. Version history. Sorry, I'm having to go through. It went to version 0.25, then 9.0, which was the beta, then 1.0. 1.0.1, I guess I should say.
Okay. Then I started playing at 0.90. I definitely was not playing in the 2s.
I'm wanting to say I was in the early 2s, but I could be wrong. We're just looking at the... Oh, I may have been sooner because 0.8 had the flight planner, and I remember being very thankful for that. Now I could just look in Steam see when my purchase date was, but that's cheating. And it also introduced unmanned probes. Up to that point, it was Jeb or bust, right?
Yeah. I mean, really, that's the only way, though. Jeb or bust.
What about Val?
All the way. Well, I mean, she's actually competent, so it's not as funny.
No. The thing is, she isn't as crazy.
Or as dumb.
And notice I say as crazy.
Fair. So yeah, that's Kerbal Space Program getting an update. And then a big trip down memory lane.
Yeah.
Sweet. So let's move along to our final news topic of the night. I'm starting to get a little just like I'm having a hard time paying attention now.
So
My sleepiness
normal.
is progressing. Yeah, sure. So our final news topic of the night: Valve shares plans for its imminent Artifact reboot beta.
So talk about failed games, right?
Yeah, when they say reboot, they mean kicking the dead horse again.
I think this is more throwing out the dead horse and putting another dead horse in its place with a different name. So,
yeah, I mean, Artifact was...
I mean, really, CCGs have kind of moved on, haven't they? For the most part.
I think so. I mean, as far as I know, Hearthstone's still going strong, but otherwise, I mean, there's not too many other CCGs in that specific space. You know, they all have to be doing something very different, or maybe not very different, but just having like a different sort of gameplay loop. You know, like what we found with the Lord of the Rings CCG.
Yeah, but that's not even a competitive CCG. That's cooperative, which is also
I know,
its
but
own
that's
thing.
doing something very different in that space, like a very different gameplay style in that space. So, but yeah, I mean, essentially they're making what I think amounts to quality of life improvements. I mean, they're looking at a few other larger changes, but essentially, when we were talking about this earlier, you had identified that they were going to be making it so you could see all three lanes at the same time, and they were taking out the marketplace. They were trying to rebalance the game, basically. We're talking about new cards or rebalancing the cards, essentially like throwing out the old meta. And I mean, like, all that's great, I guess, but it seems like way too little, way too late.
Yeah, I just think that, at least on PC, Hearthstone's only really going on because of its own momentum now. And it feels just like CCGs have kind of just came and gone, right?
Yeah, I think as the big juggernauts that they were. I mean, I think it's, like all things, they wax and wane. They'll probably be around for a while to come. I mean, about the only game genre that I can think of that really died off were, like, rhythm games. But, I mean, depending on how broad or vague you want to be with that definition, there's a lot of, like, dance games and stuff like that you might could say are rhythm games. But, I think CCGs will probably continue to exist in one form or another. Just the way that they were in their heyday a few years ago seems to mostly be gone.
Yeah, I mean, at one point it just seemed like everybody was running their own CTG or planning on it.
I guess Gwent is still pretty big too, but it's got the Witcher universe to make it be as big as it is.
Yeah, true. But it also just released on Steam. Or at least it's on the new and trending, so, right?
Cool. Can toss a coin to your Witcher. Show reference song. Gwent. Yep, free to play.
Yeah, it looks like it released today.
That's cool. I mean, there's a lot of people who like it. Good, good for them. I'm pretty much... After Hearthstone, like, completely changed everything and ruined all the progress I had made in it, I basically just quit playing CCGs altogether. Except for, here recently with the Lord of the Rings one.
Yeah,
but because it's cooperative instead of competitive.
Yeah, true. I mean, it's just... the Lord of the Rings one, it does itself a disservice just by looking too much like Hearthstone.
Yeah, even though it barely plays like Hearthstone, it does present itself like Hearthstone.
Right.
I mean, I think it plays like Hearthstone in as much as, like, there are cards that you play.
Yeah, but it has that kind of Hearthstone skin to it, where all the cards have... yes, the artwork is different, but it presents itself... If you look at a Lord of the Rings card versus a Hearthstone card, outside of the willpower stat, if you don't know which is which, you wouldn't be able to tell. right?
Yeah,
Because it's it uses very similar adjectives for the or terms for different abilities. It uses the same basic idea of attacking and defending, or I should say health and attack, that sort of thing. Which I realize a lot of that is just steeped in older card games like Magic, but you know, the damn kids, right, just don't know that, so they're comparing it to Hearthstone, saying, "Oh, this is Hearthstone. I don't want to play another Hearthstone game. I want to play something different and move on."
Yeah, I'm looking at a bunch of different CCGs on Google right now, and there are, you know, aside from the fact that they're cards, there's not really much you can do to change that. There's a lot of different ways to design and do these cards, and you know, maybe the Hearthstone model is the clearest, easiest way to do it, but you know, that's debatable. I think that's probably
I think it's probably just a lot easier design.
Yeah.
Now, the one that immediately comes up for me that I see as different is Feria, but then you start getting into the whole problem of, well, they shot themselves in the foot.
Yeah. You know, I love how that we spent like 30 seconds talking about, like, this is how much we don't give a shit about Artifact. Is we just use it as a springboard to talk about other CCGs that are better, and immediately just like stop talking about it.
Well, that's because, well, shall we go back to that one video where they announced Artifact and you could just hear the entire crowd go,
yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Artifact is that one game that nobody, I think, really wanted.
And, you know, Valve has a history of abandoning games. Why this one? You know, why this one be the one that they're going to try and revamp? I mean, I suppose money is probably the biggest reason, or maybe it's somebody's passion project who has, you know, I know that Valve has that level, like, management, like that flat management system, but I still would think that, like, you know, if like Bobby's sitting around the office and it's like, come on guys, let's work on let's work on that card game Artifact, come on, everyone's like, no Bobby, shut up, we got other projects to do, that was a failure, what are you doing, we got other stuff. Like, you know, I can imagine that guy doesn't have that much support, so unless he's been like working on it, I've now created this fictional character, unless Bobby's been working on it for, you know, a year all by himself to get this ready, then I don't know why they're doing this at this point. Just let it go, guys. Just let it go. I mean, you released a Half-Life game this year, for God's sake. Let it go.
Well, I'm just seeing if Richard Garfield is still working at Valve, because that could be your answer right there. Because he is one of the co-creators of Magic the Gathering, and he was behind some of the design for Artifact.
Well, I suppose that makes sense.
You're wanting a reason. That might be it right there, right? They just have one or two people that are dedicated to Artifact or really like their CCGs and want to play it, right?
Yeah, fair enough. But, you know, Valve, you guys do you, I guess. If you want to waste a bunch of time and money on Artifact,
well, here's the thing.
Godspeed.
Here's also the other thing is that Valve is kind of like the reverse of the EA situation, where EA has to appease their shareholders. Valve is a private company. They don't have shareholders as per design, so they are able to do something as a passion project just because. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm not trying to defend Valve outright, because it may just be that cynical. Well, we could sit and try this again because it's not going to cost us that much money. But we also know that Valve has a very different structure. So it may just be they have a couple passionate people that are wanting to sit down and work on it.
Yeah. I do think you need to have a good balance, as with pretty much everything in life, of how much to go in on something because of passion versus financial or some other type of reasons, and going all in on one thing usually is not a good idea. But I mean, they do have, the capability to do it, and I would be remiss if I was trying to tell them how to specifically spend their time as long as they're doing it because they want to and not some other reason. Like, I just, looking at this, it doesn't seem like a smart decision to make, but hell, I've never made a game, or ran a multi-billion, at least multi-million-dollar company, so.
I would imagine they're billions now, especially with the Steam platform, right?
Yeah.
Because
how much is Valve worth? This is going to be real accurate here, Googling this.
Mm-hmm. I want to buy Valve. How much? How many Bill Gates do I need, right?
Yeah. Well, this is not really useful. Okay, so in 2012, Valve was valued at $3 billion. While they have not been recently publicly evaluated, their estimate of their net worth would be around $8 billion.
Oh, chump change. We'll buy them twice.
Yeah, Bill Gates could buy them several times. Or, what's his name? The Amazon guy?
Jeff Bezos?
Yeah, Bezos. He could buy him like a ton of times. Or Elon Musk.
Yeah, but Elon Musk is too busy going crazy right now at home.
That is true.
He goes, damn, right?
Yeah, let's see. Jeff Bezos could buy him at $8 billion. Let's see, 10 to 15 times. Bill Gates could buy them 12 times. Mark Zuckerberg could almost buy them 10 times. Dang, Mark Zuckerberg, you got some catching up to do, man. You're only worth $79.97 billion. That makes me really sad inside. Like, extremely sad.
Yeah, so sad, right?
Warren Buffett, worth 68 billion. Every time I see him, I think about Jimmy Buffett just because of the last name. And I'm like thinking about Margaritaville being worth nearly $70 billion. Like, I know that that's completely wrong, but that's where my brain goes.
Yeah, but also completely right.
Very true. Very true. I'm going to need a margarita after this, except I don't drink anymore.
Yeah, no, since that one time you threw up in the bathtub, right?
No, I drank since then, but, I mean, I don't drink anymore since I'm diabetic. It's just too complicated to manage meds with alcohol. So I just don't,
I like to keep...
don't drink.
No, I like the head cannon. Yeah, I threw up in the bathtub once, and that was enough.
I did do that. I did throw up horrendously in the bathtub that one time a couple of years ago. It's real gross. I will spare the listeners any more details, although they probably know about it at this point if they've been longer time listeners. Or were there that night.
Egging you on.
Several of you. There were several of you that were there. Bad times. Bad times.
Oh, no, it was kind of funny at the time.
I remember you not thinking it was funny because you didn't like me when I was drunk.
Well... Okay.
You were annoyed with me.
You have a bell curve.
Okay. That's fair.
After a certain point, you do get very annoying.
I honestly just pictured it as like a cliff, and it's like, you're fine, and then it just like plummets and never recovers until the next, like, it recovers when you don't have to interact with me anymore. It's like, alright, I've had a break, I'm good.
It's more like Wile E. Coyote trying to launch a rocket. It goes up a little bit, then down.
Mm-hmm. That's fair. I mean, I can live with that.
But anyway,
Really?
any idea? Shall we go back to Anthem or
Anthem?
Or sorry, not Anthem. Artifact. That tells you how little I care about Artifact. Huh?
Nah, fuck it. I don't give a shit.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
Fuck
right?
Artifact. Maybe they turn it into a great game. I hope I'm wrong.
Well, the one of the takeaways
so
is
about it.
Actually, I don't think it appears in this article. It may have appeared in another one I saw. Is that they talked about how, hey, we didn't have our beta period long enough to be able to have proper feedback. No shit, right?
Yep, that's true.
Or maybe just putting Anthem into place again because another failed game that starts with an A, right? That honestly don't give a shit about.
Yeah,
but same problem. Their beta period was just essentially a server stress test. Beta has not meant beta in a long time, to the point where if there's a problem with the gameplay loop, you have time to fucking fix it. Right now, for one, beta should not be a pre-order bonus. Ever. And also beta, in my opinion, should not be a way to get ahead of the curve on progression. And yes, we are going on the beta rant, okay?
Okay.
Beta should be a time in gameplay development to make the game better. It's not to make sure, hey, our servers aren't going to melt on day one, or hey, the matchmaking software actually sort of works. Sometimes. It should be a time that you're able to cultivate proper gameplay feedback from a larger development base than, Dave, the intern, that's it, locked in the closet for the last 3 months, and be able to change the gameplay loop to make it, how about this, more enjoyable? Because games that are enjoyable, people want to play them, and maybe, just maybe, you'll get a microtransaction or two out of more people that way. I know, a shock, right?
Indeed. Build a good game and they will come.
Can't hear you building a hamster wheel powered by microtransactions. Or a fucking casino. Literally. Right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And also, you should get off my fucking lawn.
That's right. Get off my fucking lawn, you crazy kids. Yeah. I agree with you on the beta rant. But my brain is just like... I just kind of gave up after Artifact. Because it's garbage.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Being so mean to it.
Shall we continue on to Community Corner? Hey, there is no Community Corner.
Yay!
So if you wish to contribute and actually have a Community Corner, VGLpodcast@gmail.com or VGL Podcast on the Twitter. So is your brain awake enough for a discovery queue, or do you want to call it a night?
I should probably call it a night. I'm like, I could sit here. I would not be a good conversationalist, I don't think.
Oh, so like any other night. Got it. Yes, I'm turning mean, I guess.
That's fair. Just punish me, Daddy. Spank me.
All right.
Harder.
All right, Jesus.
And that's it. We've come full circle, people. We did it. Pack it up. It's actually a good time to do so.
Oh.
Rage, hit him with the socials.
And that goes back to a freaking episode that you'll probably hear in, 3 or 4 months now?
Yeah, or maybe you've already heard it, because time is weird.
Yeah, and quarantine does weird things to weird people.
It does indeed.
I mean, just look at us, right? Actually, some of the Alton Brown's content on YouTube has gotten... Whew. Yeah, some people have been in their homes a little too long. But anyway, I've been Caffeine Rage. You can find me maybe on YouTube, Gaming with Caffeine Rage. You could be my friend on Steam, Caffeine Rage over there, or Gaming with CR over on the Twitter. And you've been?
Gaming Psychologist. You can find me on the YouTubes by searching for Gaming Psychologist, on Twitter at JMA4707, and you can send me a friend request on Steam, JArthur4707.
And if you wish to let them know exactly what episode of the podcast you're coming from, the password for this week is sauerkraut. Sauerkraut, also known as Jared's brain right now.
Also gross. I hate sauerkraut.
Well, at least it's not coconuts, right?
That is true.
Coconut, pure poison.
I also don't like coconut all that much.
Pure poison.
Oh, those were the days. Things were simpler. Life was easier.
Now everything.
Obama
pure poison.
was president.
Right?
Yeah.
How about a competent adult as president?
That would be great.
Competent adult 2020. Well, I did fill out
Not moron 2020.
I did fill out my primary voter form over the weekend because they moved my primary back to be even more laughably late. But and I did absentee because my corona. Figured out why a certain political party doesn't want people to do that. I was able to say here Google people and look at political platforms without having to remember names, right? Can't have informed voters, right?
Can't have that. Can't have an informed populace. We might get shit done.
Yeah, it was just sitting here doing that. It was like, oh, well, suddenly this makes a lot more sense, right?
Indeed, it does.
So if you wish to make some more sense of us, well, good luck, right?
Yeah.
But once again, you could reach us, VGLpodcast@gmail.com with your letters, voicemails, game-related topics, or just tweet them to us, VGL Podcast, on the Twitter. Our lovely, lovely patrons have made this possible. You can find out more at patreon.com/VGL Podcast. And if you wish to read the show notes or find all of our stuff, you do so VGLpodcast.podbean.com or you can find us on iTunes, Google Play, or your podcatcher of choice. Our intro and outro music is On the Ground by Kevin McLeod, and you can find his work over at incompetech.com. And
as always, as his lovely music starts to roll across my voice, bye-bye now.
See you next time.
Bye-bye.